boys and girls, welcome back to Art with Mrs. Schaaf. Hopefully you've gotten your rainbow done in your collage and sent it up to the school so that I can hang it up in the hallways, or at least taken a picture and submitted it to Miss Schaaf so that I can see that you did your artwork. Now you listen to the story, Hug Me, and now you're going to be creating your cactus, and we're going to be using texture. So if you see here, I have texture on my cactus. Texture is how something feels. And so in art, we can't always have that texture on there, but we want people to think that there's texture on there. So we're gonna do some texture using lines, and we're also gonna do value. Value is where you can see the light and the dark of a color and showing some shadow, dark and light. So we're going to be doing this in our art project today. So we're going to get started with some paper and a pencil. All right, boys and girls, so I have a piece of white paper. This is actually a 9 by 12 piece of white paper, 80 weight. So it's not just your typical printer paper, it is actually drawing paper. If you need paper, I can get it to you. If you come up to the school and pick it up in the office, I can get you the nicer paper, so that way you're working on a little bit more quality paper than just the white printer paper, which is a lot thinner. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my paper over, and using a pencil, I'm going to write my name. Not you're going to write your own name. So I'm going to write mine, and I'm going to write my grade level. So if I was kinder, I'm going to write K. And then I'm going to write my teacher's name. So if I was Esparza, I would write Esparza's her name on here. So that way, if you come to turn in your work to Miss Schaaf, I know who the artwork belongs to. So now I have my paper, and it's just vertical, up and down. It's not turned to the side where it's landscape and side to side. I want it straight up and down like this, where it's nice and long from top to bottom. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to use your pencil, and you're going to be creating a horizon line. The horizon is just a horizontal line that goes from left to right so that I can separate my background from my foreground. So just starting at one side of your paper, and notice I'm about maybe 4 fingers, and you can see right here about 4 fingers, and I'm going to take that line and I'm going to draw it across, creating a horizon. So that's just a horizontal line going across your paper. So now this is going to create my background. This is going to be my foreground. Just like if you're looking at this art piece, you see my horizon here, and I have my foreground, and behind my cactus and around it I have the background. So that's what line we are trying to create right now. So the next line, boys and girls, I want to create is this big curved line that is the big part of my cactus. So all it is a line that starts at your horizon and goes in a big curve, almost like a U, but upside down, or a horseshoe. And I'm just going to make a big curved line. And I want to make it big because I don't want a teeny tiny little cactus. Now I'm going to go and I'm just going to make a big curved line just like this on my paper. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some of these other additional pieces of cactus that grow from that main piece. So again, if you look, I have my main cactus, and again, I just have a curved line. And what happens is these lines start coming together to create a shape and an art piece, and they've come together to create your cactus. So we're just going to be making some curved lines here. Line is one of your elements of art. We're actually using quite a few of our elements of art. Today we are going to be using line and texture and color and value and even shape. So we said a curved line, so I'm going to start over here on the side of my cactus, and I'm just going to create another curved line. Almost like, if you look at it, it looks like the letter C. So now I'm going to do one more, and I'm just going to start over here. And again, I'm going to make a curved line. I don't want to go off my cactus or off my paper. Then I'm going to do one more piece over here. So I'm going to create another curved line, and they don't have to be exactly the same or the same size, but I don't want to create these itty bitty little pieces where you can't see it. I'm also going to create these little tops I'm also going to create these up here, the little red parts on top, they'll turn purple when it starts getting ripening and stuff, and people actually make jelly out of these pieces right here on the jam. So it's called cactus jelly. So I'm gonna have just another curved line and a little one over here, as long as I'm not going off the paper. So now I've created the outline of my cactus. So when we were creating our clouds, I told you to kind of pick an expression or a facial on here expression that you liked and you wanted to express in your cloud. Well, the same thing goes for your cactus. We're gonna be putting faces on these and you can create an expression. Last time on mine, I just did a curved line and created a smiley face, but you do not have to do yours like mine. In fact, I wanna see some differences. You can even use, this is one that we used with our monsters, where you can create some different facial expressions. So I'm gonna first use a circle to create, or an oval to create my eyes. And I want some big eyes so that they really stand out on my cactus. So I'm just making some big ovals, and I'm gonna create a circle or oval inside, and that's where I'm gonna show some light reflecting inside my eye. That's what I'm drawing right now. And so I'm gonna draw another oval. But again, you do not have to make yours like mine. I would like to see you do your own expression. So here, I'm gonna actually draw a curved line, like a big happy face. And another curved lines here, just to show kind of the cheeks and stuff when they're, I'm actually gonna add some little cheek circles to mine. But I also, on the mouth, I'm gonna make this one an open mouth, and I can add a tongue to curved lines. And I'm gonna leave it like that so that I have a facial expression. These are gonna be the pink rosy cheeks that my cactus has. You do not have to do that. If you look at this cactus, I did not put rosy cheeks on this cactus. But one thing I'm gonna go back in and do is add texture. Now, the texture is how something feels, and that's where I used, if anyone can think of this letter, it's like a little V. But I'm not making them really big, so I don't want these V's that are like huge. I wanna make just little V's. And I wanna do that, and I'm gonna do a few inside my cactus, not very many. I'm just gonna do a couple, because I don't want so much that it takes away from the facial expression. But another important part is I want to make it actually look like this is spiky. So I'm going to take my cactus and I'm going to make the V and attach it to the side of my cactus. So I'm going to do that going up, and I kind of spread them out. I have like a finger space or two in between. And I'm going to go around my cactus. I didn't put any on this part right here. That's the blossom. That's where the flowers come off the cactus. I'm just putting them on where my green part of my cactus is. So I'm going to go around and create texture. So right now, when I see this, I think the texture is kind of spiky or pokey because I'm creating that kind of texture on my cactus. I'm gonna add a few more in here just to kind of balance it and make it look uniform. All right, so now we're gonna go to the next step. The next step, I'm actually gonna use a black Sharpie. If you don't have this, you can also use black crayon or a black marker, but if you're going to use watercolors to color this, do not use a washable marker because it'll take your black and put it everywhere. So if you end up doing, like here, this one is done in crayon, but if you decide you want to use watercolors, then you need to make sure that it's a permanent marker. So if you notice, all my lines are traced in nice, neat, black Sharpie. Now, I am going to go and I'm going to very carefully trace over. See how I'm going slow? Because I don't want to go off of my lines. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going nice and slow. And if that means I have to do a little bit, turn my paper, because I don't want to go off the lines. If I go off the lines, my paper is going to look messy. So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna trace all of my lines, boys and girls. See how I'm kind of come and meet? I'm also gonna trace my eyes. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm going right on top of that pencil, and then I'm covering it so that I don't leave it showing. So now I'm gonna very carefully fill in my black eye here, but I'm also gonna keep filling in all my pencil lines. So go and fill out all your black lines with your Sharpie and get your paper ready for the next step. So now I finished tracing my entire art piece with black Sharpie to really bring out and emphasize the texture and the lines that I've created on my art piece. And so we talked about before we created the horizon, and this is my foreground. This is basically the ground the cactus is in, and this is the sky behind them. This is called my background. And so what I'm gonna do is very lightly, I'm gonna take and I'm gonna create a circle using my pencil. Very light though, boys and girls. I don't want it super dark because we're gonna use that to create our value in our artwork. So I did one, and you can see that I've created a very light line, kind of drawing a circle. I did not go through my cactus here. And then I'm gonna create another one. So that's 2 circles so far, and you can see that they kind of go off the page, and so all this over here is my second circle. And then one more. See, and you can just, it's kind of like I'm making a rainbow, it looks like, on my paper with my lines. And so I'm going to use that to help me achieve, if you look at my artwork, value. And value is when it goes from light and then it goes to dark here. So this is only one crayon here, but you can see that it looks like I've showed light, and it gets darker and darker and darker, and I'm just using one crayon. And so we're gonna use those lines to help guide us do that. So find one crayon you wanna use in your background. Now remember, our cactus is going to be green, so maybe use a color that really, really brings out that green. I used a blue last time, but I wish now that I had used more of a color that was really opposite of green. So I'm gonna actually choose purple this time to create my background. So I have my crayon, and we talked about the colors of the rainbow, and violet or purple is the last color in the rainbow. And so if you see a crayon and it says violet, violet and purple are the same. And so we're going to start off using our crayon. And I actually, to start off, I like to color with it on the side, because right now I want to make it really light. And the way you take a crayon and make it lighter is by not pressing down very hard. And so to make sure that I'm not pressing down hard, I'm going to use really light coloring. Do you see how light that is, boys and girls? And look, I'm staying on the outside, coloring my background inside that line right there, but I'm making sure I don't color into my cactus. I want to keep my cactus nice and clean and pretty, so that way I can create my color. And I'm using crayons on this right now. I'm trying to use materials that you guys might have at home, and I know sometimes we don't have those paints and things that Ms. Schaaf might have in her classroom. So I'm trying to stick with materials that you guys might have at home. That's why I'm using crayon. But if you want to try to use watercolors, you can, but do not use watercolors on the printer paper. That won't go really well. The paper might rip, and it just really, the water doesn't do well with that kind of paper. You would need a little bit nicer watercolor paper or art paper. So I've gone and colored in really light around that whole first circle that I created. So now in order to create value, I need to get a little bit darker. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to start coloring in again, but I'm going to actually get a little bit darker this time. And if I notice it matches too much, I'm going to start pressing down a little bit more with my crayon. So to get a little bit darker, you see I'm going from light, and you can see a little bit darker over here. Again, I'm going to make sure that I don't color inside my cactus, and I'm just going to color in a little bit darker so that I can show that value. I don't want to leave a gap here though. I want to close it in so it's nice and smooth transition, like moving into the next color. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring this circle where I'm pressing down a little bit harder, boys and girls. All right, so I finished coloring. I went from really light to a little bit more medium. So now this next circle, I'm still using that same purple crayon, and I'm gonna come in, but this time you can see I'm even pressing down a little bit harder, boys and girls, and I stay inside that one circle, and you can see I'm pressing down, and it's a little bit darker than this one, boys and girls, because I'm trying to show value. And if remember, value is light and dark of a color, and so I want to show that value in my artwork so that I can show some shadow and I can show some light. Oop, Michelle got a little bit in her. I couldn't see it, and I colored into it. That's okay. We'll cover it up. We make mistakes like that, boys and girls. There's no reason to get upset because we can usually fix it. But again, I'm coloring. That means I'm just pressing down a little bit harder with the same crayon, boys and girls. And this is how I can create that light in my artwork. And now I'm going to do really dark in those corners. See, Miss Schaff actually needs to go back in and color this a little bit darker because I colored a little bit darker over here. But now, look what happens when I press down even harder. Now I'm gonna get even that more darker color. So I'm gonna finish coloring my background using a really dark, rich color and finish coloring it in so that I have no white space left on the background of my artwork. Remember, background is what is going on behind or around your artwork here. And I did not color my foreground. I did not color my cactus because we are gonna finish and stop here today, and we'll come back next week and we'll color our cactus and we'll color our foreground. So the only thing you should color this week is your background with value. Bye, boys and girls.